it's all going to be account on the economy and inflation. You know, in Chicago, we don't have too much of a problem because we're in a upper end area, but in the lower end areas, they're going to take a big hit because the guy isn't going to want to spend that $30, $35 a week to bowl, you know, get in pots and have a couple of drinks and all that stuff. And I think those are the ones that are going to get hurt pretty hard. And the seniors also, because they're basically on a set income.
Yeah. Awesome. So really appreciate you coming on today, Bob. I'm looking forward to this conversation. You got a lot of experience in the industry. So for people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Robert Kuhn, and I'm the owner of Timber Lanes in Chicago. It's a small 8-lane bowling center. I started in the industry when I was 16 years old. I am presently 67 years old. I purchased Timber Lanes when I was 29 years old in 1985. Timber Lanes was founded in 1945. It was a small bar that they converted to a bowling alley. We are just a bowling alley with a full service bar, and we do not have timber. Does exceptionally well. We're in Chicago. In 1967, there was 68 bowling alleys in the city of Chicago. Chicago has 50 wards. Of those wards, that leaves about 1.25 bowling alley per ward. Presently, 2023, we have 10 bowling alleys in the city of Chicago. Of probably maybe 7 of them are real bowling alleys and not party places. So if you can imagine, within a mile radius of this building, we have over 100,000 people. In 2009, I purchased Arlington Lanes in Arlington Heights, which is about 5 miles north of Arlington Park Racetrack. It's a 40-lane center that we had acquired over a failure. It was a foreclosure. The bank hired me to oversee the operations until they could get the SBA cleared, which it took them about 2 years, but it was a phenomenal deal for me. I just ran the center and I didn't have to pay any rent or have to pay any property taxes. The problem of the big bowling alley was it's a 42,000 square foot building and an industrial park, but at one point in time, the taxes, they had 40 lanes, 11 pool tables, 2 bars, kitchen that can serve banquet style food or the 40 lanes of it. And the problem was the taxes went up to $185,000 a year, just pretty tax. So I had to put away $1,000 a month just to pay the taxes. I'm a big believer in fully funded businesses because you can get through the peaks and valleys. In the bowling business, the slower time is usually in the summer. So in 2019, I literally won the lottery. I was able to sell Arlington Lanes 9 months before the pandemic. So I did exceptionally well. And I didn't have to have it during the pandemic. I still continue to own Timber Lane, which I enjoy. The only problem is presently I'm 67 years old, and you can only climb in and out of those machines just so much. And the problem is when you own a small 8-lane center, literally you got to do everything.
Of course.
So, but what people don't understand about our industry is that we're in the recreation industry. We don't have a necessity product. We have a luxury product. So we in turn have to create great experiences for people to want to come back. Ours is a little bit differently because we have so many people in our area, and in our area, we are about a mile northwest of Wrigley Field. We're in a high affluential area. The average, within a half a block of this building, there is $15+ million homes that sit on a piece of property that's about 30 by 124. But it's always good to find out what the economic engine is to your area. In our case, it's the L. We have the L that goes directly downtown, and that's the economic engine. The bowling alley sits on a piece of property that is 80 by 124, and the land alone is worth $3 million. So, in 1945 and 1953, they purchased the building and the land and 4 apartments to the tune of about $2,500. So 1953, it was very, very reasonable.
Yeah.
Today it's not. So,
Right.
but here again, our taxes presently here just went from $40,000 to $50,000 for that 80 by 124 piece of property. But in our industry, two of the major problems is most of the owners don't know how to get out of debt. They should always
tell me about that.
debt. And then at that point in time, life becomes so much easier. Or in the case of a pandemic, Timberlane's building, what people don't realize is totally paid for. It cost me between $10,000 and $15,000 a month just to have that building sit there. And a lot of other guys, if they didn't use their loans, really were in a real sad situation.
Yeah. We
You
saw a lot
have to
of them.
prepare for the funds. Pardon me?
We saw a lot of them who didn't make it.
Yeah, we were shut down for 11 months. And one of the problems with the city of Chicago is we didn't serve food. If we served food, we could have partially stayed open, but there's too many centers that stretch the envelope out of survival, and we couldn't do that. But when the pandemic started, I thought I was the smartest guy in the world. I took $165,000 and invested it into the building, the machines, put new coolers, new carpet in. And then about 9 months later, I thought I was the dumbest guy in the world. I didn't spend that $163,000, but in the whole scheme of things, it worked out very, very well for us.
Oh yeah.
Our hardest part is dealing with the city. The city of Chicago. They're not very grateful to businesses, and when all else fails, they crush us. Initiate new taxes, do things, whatever. It's a mean game. And it's hard. You would wish they would want to encourage this, but it didn't happen. A lot of people, the first thing they ask us is, did you get any PPP money? But PPP money doesn't really help the owner of the business. You still got to pay the light bill, the electric bill, the insurance bill, the taxes, with no assist from anybody. And if you don't have, getting back into the beginning of the podcast where I told you, fully funded businesses, so you can get through that ups and downs, So, but I enjoy the game. I don't always like where the game is heading, because I don't think it's going to hurt. You get companies like Belmore who bought AMF and Brunswick and all that stuff. And they think it's easy to hire the guy who ran the Kresge's down the street to become a bowling alley owner. And the bowlers look at the guy and say, hey man, we need more oil in the lanes. And the guy says, what are you talking about?
Right.
We really need people within our industry to bowl that are running these centers. So they get a little better feel for what everybody needs. We know, me and my staff know that if we're having a group coming in, we know what we're supposed to do beforehand, and it's all about consistency. A guy goes to work, gets beat up, he goes home, he gets beat up by his wife and his kids. He don't want to go to the bowling alley and get beat up.
Right.
He wants to have things consistent and, have a joyful experience, which we try to do. And one of the biggest problems is that as the owners of the bowling alley get older, they don't want to bowl. And it's very difficult to ask somebody, hey, do you want to bowl in the league? And they say, do you bowl in the league? And 9 times out of 10, they don't.
Right.
Or I do.
Yeah.
I bowl probably 6-7 times a week.
Wow. Right. Yeah. See, you're eating the dog food, as they call it, eating your own dog food.
Yeah. But at any point in time, I know what's going on out there. I know if a machine's having a problem.
Yeah.
I know if a league's having a problem, and that's what helps us. Now, I wouldn't expect every league to bowl in that many every owner to bowl in that many leagues, but they have to make an effort, and, that's the whole thing, I was hoping, and I'm not a big fan of USBC. I feel there's no consistency, and I feel they want to get out of the rewards business, but the lower level bowlers want that rewards because they're not going to get anything else. And I truly didn't think it was very fair for them to take, okay, if you've had a 300 or an 800 within the last 10 years, you don't get another ring, which is very So why
Right.
should somebody want to sanction? I mean,
Makes sense.
the problem is USBC was in Milwaukee, a very, very pro bowling town. And then they thought they were smart and they were going to sell the land for all this money and then build a center down in Texas. And I don't think it's worked out too well financially. The problem is they went down, they were going to go to either to Texas or they were going to go to Florida because they had no state income tax. You can't make your business decisions based on the older members of your group. And the problem is USBC is too old. We need younger people to be involved. My biggest fear with USBC is that they're going to sanction these string machines. And I think that's going to, in my opinion, that's going to really hurt us, and it's two different animals. And if you want to make a special sanctioning body for tournaments and stuff like that, for both, it's not going to work. For if they would separate them and have two totally different, let's call it divisions of sanctioning, one regular machine, one machine, it would probably be a little bit easier in fairness to the handicap system for those tournaments.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do. I think it's going to get something in the near future just because there's a lot of steam behind it. But whether or not they separate out or make it its own league, I'd be curious to see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it's funny how, and I'm also not a big fan of the two-handed or the one-handed bowler. The two-handed bowler, and I feel that, they're saying, some people are saying it's the future of the game. And always my reaction to that comment is that I feel that to be a two-handed bowler, you have to have strength and you have to have power. And as you get older, you can't throw the ball as fast. You can't be as accurate. And there's not a lot of forgiveness. So it's going to be fun when these guys that are decent two-handed bowlers see what happens when they get older. Because they're going to be able to throw.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'd like to go back a little bit to, what you were talking about at the beginning about how many centers there used to be and how many there are now, and maybe some of those contributing factors of how you've been able to stay in business so long. What are some of the things you think have helped you succeed in having such a long reign in Chicago?
Well, all these guys that we were all friends, and they were telling me, I'm going to sell the center. I'm going to get $1 million. I'm going to get $2 million or whatever. And I keep telling them, you got to have a job. Why would you want to give up your job when you've got your competition shrinking and shrinking and shrinking? The problem in the city of Chicago, why we lost those centers, is the value of the land. So an owner could be sitting on a 2 or 3. In one case, one guy's land was worth almost $10 million. So in his case, it was very wise that he sold it because he had a choice, either $2 million into it or take the $10 million out. And it was far better. He didn't want, as you become older, there are certain things like, people say, why don't we put a kitchen in timber? And I always tell them, if we put a kitchen in timber, the first day that I had to cook, 2 people would be dead. Right. And there's no way at this point in time I would ever get my money back as an investment if I put, $75,000 to $100,000 in putting into a kitchen in our basement.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So you're saying a lot of what it comes down to is just the catching out, the temptation to take that check just gets so great that fewer and fewer people are willing to say, no, I want to keep this.
Yeah. It's I do bowling. I constantly make my business decisions based as a bowler, not based as a business guy. So if I can always keep the bowlers happy, my bowlers aren't going to stay. We have some people that have been bowling in our center for 20, 30 years. Yeah. The problem is they have relationships. Bowling is an exceptional communications. Get out of the house 1 day a week. You can go and visit your friends. You can have a few beers. You can enjoy yourself. And that's sometimes hard to hard to buy. It's all about having fun, yelling and screaming at each other. And, that's what it's all about. We're probably now running in an 8-lane center. We're probably running 16 leagues through our center a week.
Wow.
So
2 a day.
that's
Yeah. More than 2 a
and
day.
within the next month, it's going to be 17 or 18. We've had every league come back prior to the pandemic. We did not lose any leagues.
You know,
Yeah,
tell me then a little bit about your process for getting as many leagues as you have, and how you can fill them up.
Well, what we do is you always have to have that mix of open bowl to leagues, open bowl to, and the reason being is if you don't get the open bowl, it's hard to generate or fill or establish leagues.
Sure.
And then you have to be creative. One of our leagues we run, we call it the After Football League, and what we do is we have two afternoon leagues on Sunday. They bowl every other week, and we have a nighttime league that they switch off the week. But we don't have anything between 4 and 7. But we put an 8-team league in there, which has been running for 10 years. But in this year, we have them start the week before Super Bowl, miss Super Bowl, and then after they carry all the way through to the middle of May. So get them to bowl 12 or 13 weeks. And it's if I had 16 lanes, I could fill 16 teams because there's such a demand. You take a situation and you feel how you can apply it to your business. We have some people that just bowl in the summer. They don't want to bowl every other week, or they don't want to bowl 35 weeks, but they love that summer league that they can bowl. In the summertime, we have 5 leagues. We have, and we always keep 5 on a team to keep the most people in the building. On the summer, we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we run on every other Sunday. And the last couple of years, they've all been just totally filled. So, and we go to 5 on a team, so that they're in the building for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and that gives us more exposure to the bar.
What are some of the things you do to get all the signups? Do you just go lane to lane and ask them, or what do you do to get people signed up?
And then we had our beer company make us up a couple signs, which they made it. We have one for the winter, we have one for the summer, we have one for the fall. But these big banners that we put up inside the bowling alley, and it creates interest. People go, oh yeah, maybe and then we can run through. And what people don't realize is bowling is a sport where everybody helps everybody. So if you and I are bowling against each other and you're not that good, and we're bowling on opposite teams, I'm not afraid to help you, because if I help you and make you a better bowler, then you're going to want to bowl more. And that's always our intent, to make a bowl more. We have a video training thing that we have in our center, and it's on one lane now, and we have the equipment to put it in, but we just been so busy, but I haven't been able to. But it's a phenomenal self-teaching training thing, and I mean it's really worked real well, and people pay extra for it. They were out of Wisconsin, and now I think he's down in Austin, Texas.
And it's just a training company for your bowling.
No, they have a system that tracks the ball, tells us the speed, shows it on it. We have a TV screen behind it, shows where the ball goes. We'll take the last 4 or 5, show the guy how he's consistent. But as they get older, I tend to.
That sounds really nice. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen them at Expo or one of these places.
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
I can't remember the name, but I'll send it to you. And it's really good. It's not cheap, I think the first version was $2,000 for 2 lanes, and then we upgraded, and that was $3,200 for 1 lane, and now this last version, to which we put on lane 2, the second lane, is $3,600.
You're thinking that it converts a lot of not as serious bowlers into leaguers, is what you're saying? Right. And the people you get the return. Look at it, and they can see themselves. What I always tell people, if they're just learning how to bowl, I go, you go home. You have a full-length mirror at home. Nobody has to be around. Sure. You do your approach in front of that mirror, and you see how consistent your shoulders are straight. This is throw. You come through the ball. Your speed is good, and it really, really helps, because, as I tell people, if you can fortify your approach with muscle memory, do it 10 times a day, and then do it
the next day, 10 at night. Nobody has to be around. It could be in a closet, wherever. But your body will become used to that motion and it'll be more flow. Every sport has a flow, you know,
Right.
baseball, football, basketball, bowling too. You know, it's all about eye-hand coordinations. And most good bowlers are good golfers. Most good golfers are good bowlers. Eye-hand coordination, you know, how you address the ball. So
I have noticed that connection between the two because it's that repetitive motion and it's just one you're trying to be under 100 and one you're trying to be over.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. Well, I always tell people, I says, all I want you to do is bowl your weight. Well, for some people, it's easy, impossible. But most big guys are pretty decent bowlers.
Probably have a lot of power.
They're usually good dancers too, because they have that flow.
Coordination.
You know, on the wet side of it, you know, when a woman would tend to bowl the best when they're pregnant, because they slow down.
Interesting.
Slow down, more flow, consistent. They're always a little apprehensive, but, you know, it's crazy how that works. But there's a common.
Funny. I wouldn't have guessed that. So tell me a little bit, Bob, about where you're seeing things going. I guess we've talked about a little bit in the past. You know, what's working today for you with the leagues. Where do you see things going over the next 1 year, 18 months for the bowling industry?
Well, I think it's all going to be account on the economy and inflation. You know, in Chicago we don't have too much of a problem because we're in a upper end area, but in the lower end areas are going to take a big hit because the guy isn't going to want to spend that $35 a week to bowl, you know, get in pots and have a couple of drinks and all that stuff. And I think those are the ones that are going to get hurt pretty hard. And the seniors also, because they're basically on a set income. And I think that's what's going to hurt. I'm really nervous about, because mechanics are very, very difficult to find. In the olden days, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the machine manufacturers, AMF and Brunswick, had their own maintenance service, which is really convenient. Because we don't care what we pay to maintain the equipment, we just want it to be maintained. You know, this is the manufacturer's solution was making the string machines because you don't need a mechanic. They're supposed to be so easy to fix. But now it's become harder and harder and harder, you know, and that's what's going to lead to kids today. They want to be car mechanics. They don't want to be bowling alley mechanics. Even though
harder and harder to find.
Even though, you know, I have an 8-lane center. I pay a full-time mechanic $60,000 a year, long as you do the job. You know, and they're just hard to find. And you know, you go through all these things, and you know, you can send a guy to school, but how long is he going to last? You know,
it's a big investment.
Money is, in our case, and most of the center's cases, money isn't the problem. It's to want to have a guy and want the guy to keep and stay. You know? That's the hardest part. You know, what incentive do you use to keep him to stay? You know, I like I said, I've been doing this for 51 years, and I've been fortunate. I own my center for 37 years now. So, I mean, that's been always the goal at the beginning was, and then when the opportunity came apart, you know, I just never walked away. I had a big corporate job before I worked, or, you know, before I bought my first center when I was 29, but I had a big corporate job and I had the wrong boss, and I felt I was smarter than him. And within a couple of years, I surely was. You know, I owned my own business. I was very, very successful. You know, I did a lot of things, but here again, I made the decisions based on, you know, if you make your decisions based on the business guy, it doesn't always prevail. You know, we have to find solutions all the time. And, you know, some of these are easy and others are hard, but we just have to do it, you know. You know, we like the volume. You know, I mean, our total gross sales is over $100,000 a lane.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how you make judgments. It was interesting. I owned the bowling alley in Arlington Heights. I owned that for 10 years. And it really gave me a very big perspective between the small center and the large center. You know,
Yeah.
a large
Right.
center had so many employees where I didn't have to work on the, as I call it, on the floor that much. In a small center, you got to do everything. You got to
Right.
change the towels in the bathroom. You know, you got to make sure the cleanup guy comes. You got, you know, all these things. You know, I mean, we don't really have other managers. We've got some real exceptional employees. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
As
definitely a lot more.
this is going to be the best part-time job you ever had in your life, and none of them want to go away.
Right.
Oh, but you have to enjoy the sport. You know, I mean, you really have to. You know, and what happens to us a lot of times, we get these kids that are in turn going to school or whatever, and they learn to bowl from there. And you know, they like to have a nice part-time job or whatever. There's a lot of things that we do. One of the things that where we get real creative about our center is that we get a movie or commercial every year. We've had, as of Saturday, we'll have had 5 music videos shot in our building for the backdrop for their music videos.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You know, we get commercials, we get movies, and the good part about it is, you know, we most of the time make $1,800 a day. They come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. They're done by 3:30. It doesn't affect their nighttime business.
Right.
You know, you take that $2,000 in the pot, and it really makes a big difference because there's really no cost to it. You know, and they shoot you. You just find different ways. We have our ATM machine, but our ATM machine is on the outside of our building because we have 2,500 people walk in front of our building every day.
Yeah. Right.
Our ATM machine goes through a tremendous amount of money. I don't own it. Somebody else owns it. I'm doing the bowling alley. I'm not good, but the bowling alley that we had in Arlington Heights didn't have any outdoor exposure. So we had the ATM machine inside the building and I owned it. So here, and you look at what can get you the most money and then you work from there. You know, we have a lot of advertising on the outside of our building that we get paid on a monthly and an annual basis, and it just adds into the pot, you know.
Right.
I mean, you figure out a way to make your business stronger and stronger and stronger, you know, and that really helps.
Additional revenue streams, product lines.
Yes, I mean, some of the people have the advertising, the rigs and stuff like that, but I don't. I'm not a big fan of that. You know, I want the bowlers to enjoy the sport, and I don't want to have anything to contradict that or to destroy that.
Sure.
You know, like hockey, they have all over the boards. You will watch a Cub game, and there ain't 2-3 seconds that go by that there's not some advertising.
Right.
Don't be greedy. If you get greedy, then you're going to dilute your product, and you don't want to do that.
And not only dilute your product, but your brand too, your people's perception of your business.
Yeah.
Well,
I would have probably kept the.
What's that?
No, I said I probably would have kept the center in Arlington, which here again, after I bought it at the share sale, I was 3 years away after 10 years of having it totally paid for. But the problem was it wasn't the note on the outstanding loans that I borrowed from other buildings to pay for it, because the share sale, you have to pay 100% for it.
Right.
It wasn't that, it was the taxes, you know, the taxes.
It's
I don't know if you ever seen a guy in the room be happy. Yep. I didn't know if you ever seen a guy in the room that was all excited because his property taxes were $125,000 a year, 85 to 125, but that was me. But the problem is it just kept inching up and inching up. I think when I left, it was somewhere around $160,000 a year.
Yeah, it's a
know,
big,
and
it's a big gut to overcome every single year.
Right, right. And they're always against you. You know, you got to fight for them every year.
The last thing I wanted to ask you, Bob, is just the number one piece of advice you would offer to a proprietor, either a new proprietor or someone who's maybe at a crossroads or has a big decision to make. What would be your advice to that person who, you know, wants to succeed in the bowling industry?
Be involved with your business, bowl, promote the sport. Because nobody promotes the sport more than an owner that bowls in his own center.
Yeah,
he can find out what's going on. He's going to learn. It's not filtered to the customer, the employee, and yourself, you can actually see what's going on. And what I always do is at least once every 2 or 3 weeks, I walk inside and outside the total area of my center. Look at the plot, look at the building, look at this. I'm looking for things that at some point in time I'm going to have to do, but I would rather make myself aware of that situation than get a call saying the roof collapsed, then getting calls saying the roof's leaking, and you have to become an accurate and an active owner, and the problems is in the bigger centers now, you're talking about, well, I think in the last days when one of the last couple of centers that Brunswick was building, it was running them $10 million to put up with land, a 40 land center.
Yeah, with the new build. I could see it.
So in those new centers, it's not so bad, but in the old centers, you got a lot of bad spots.
Sure, you have potential problems.
I was fortunate that the bowling alley in Arlington Heights that I had purchased, I had worked at it when I was a kid. So I didn't even have to figure out what the layout of the building was. I already knew.
Right. Yeah.
And that what helps. And almost any center I worked at in my younger days, I was able to learn a lot about the nooks and crannies. The bathrooms are the key. You keep a clean bathroom.
Yeah, it's a reflection of your center, truly.
And if you're going to rebuild your bathrooms,
I got a story from the old VP of operations for Brunswick when they had 110 centers. He said that when they did their customer surveys, the cleanliness of the bathroom was weighted higher above all the other questions, and that was the number one question that was most important.
Absolutely. And you build them as if it's a fortress.
Right.
So you build them as if it's a fortress. You put rock and 3/4 inch plywood all in that bathroom. So when somebody gets mad, they ain't gonna hurt you.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
It is. And like even inside timber, we have a little cove where we have the drain pipes for the roof. And the whole cove, before the paneling, we have 3/4 inch plywood. Yeah, you can't damage it. Good luck. It's gonna hurt themselves.
Right.
But, and then I don't have to fix it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. He'll just have to fix his hand at the doctor. Awesome. Well, I want to respect your time.
Do you like?
Enjoyed it. Sorry, say that again.
Yeah. I said, do you really enjoy being a partnership in the center that you're with?
Yeah. So yeah, I really like it. I like not just the sport factor, but the making memories factor, especially for like families. People go there and that's their family entertainment, or they go there with friends. And that's kind of what you're really providing people is an experience in memories. So I really get a kick out of that.
One of the best things that we do is we do a lot of wedding rehearsal parties.
Yeah.
Kids that
my sister had one at the center down the street here.
Yeah.
Same thing.
We get these kids that come in, and we have 4 universities right by Timber. We have Columbia, DePaul, Loyola, and Northwestern. And we get a lot of these kids in here because we're kind of a safe haven. And they in turn, they meet somebody who come into the center, and then engaged. And then when they get married, they come in and they rent the center out. It's cool. It's a real good thing, and the nice part about it is that, you go to a wedding, let's say a wedding rehearsal party, and you turn around and you don't like somebody, you don't have to stand by them.
Right.
If you go to a restaurant, it's structured seating.
Yeah.
So as I say, you could do the 20-foot rule. You could sit 20 feet away from that person, and nobody would know. And going to a restaurant. And then if you have kids, the kids don't want to leave. 4 hours later, we're prying the kids out of there so we can get the next shift in.
Right. Yeah.
Once you set your schedules to go back to back to back to back, especially on weekends, it works out phenomenal. There's some weekends when we walk in the door at 2:00, or we have a small league in the morning on Friday, but after that league on Friday, small league on Friday, there's some weekends from Friday all the way until Sunday night at 10:00, we have no lanes available.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if you set your schedule to put people in those sequences, you totally usage your business.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's smart. And it sounds like you've really, know how to run a center. It sounds like you guys are crushing it this year.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could talk to you about this all day long, but I want to be respectful of your time so we can wrap it up. If anyone ever wants to reach out to, ask you about, advice or, how to run a center or, your experience, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can call me on the phone.
Okay. Just call in the center.
Yeah, call the center. They can call my cell phone. You got my cell phone.
Yeah.
The only thing is just don't call me before 11. Wake me.
Fair enough.
But
Yeah.
I've helped quite a few guys in Illinois.
Yeah.
A family that had a center that had know nothing about it, and the first thing I did is I made them bowl in the league.
Right. Yeah.
Now get your feet
Consistent. Right. Yeah. Consistent advice. I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, Bob. This has been a pleasure. I look forward to maybe connecting again. And again, appreciate you taking some time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I get just as much out of it as you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.